from beginning to end, blood to blood, life to death, sunrise to sunset, from one end of the rainbow to the other, from starshine to starfall, from the left side of the room to the right, from the beginning of time to the apocalypse. Hey, thanks for joining the Escape With Me book club. Escape with me, Lizzie Sawyer.
And me, Sam Reiner.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We're going to be covering it beginning to end, cover to cover, so remember, there will be spoilers.
Today we're going to Oxford, England. Published in 2018, The Vampire Knitting Club is the first in a series that calls itself Paranormal Cozy Mystery. Not only does this series have your traditional cozy mystery fare, with sidekick cats and dashing men vying for the attention of the protagonist, but it also comes with its own special blend of magic and vampires. Not only does Lucy need to find her grandmother's killer, she also has to learn how to use her newfound powers before her cousin can get a hold of their family spellbook, while also keeping the knitting store open. Needless to say, it's a very hectic time.
Such a lovely cousin.
There are so many plots in this book. Oh my goodness. Anyway, background. This book found us.
No, it found you.
I think that's the best way to put this. I was somewhere and there was an Amazon ad for books, and this was the first one. And since we have this podcast, how could we not? It's vampires and knitting.
Yep, she was like, we're doing this. And I was like, do I have a choice? And she was like, nope.
Here we be.
Here we are.
It's a cozy mystery too. We've done a couple of those. We had to do it. I sent a screenshot of it to Lizzie and it was like, we're doing this. And we basically cleared the schedule so we could do this as soon as possible.
And it was like, oh, what did you replace with that? And she was like, no, I just moved everything down.
I think the funnier thing was more like you looked on the schedule and you were like, oh, you weren't kidding. We are reading this. We're doing it. So just a really quick content warning. This is an adult level book. It has death, blood, needles, and drug use. So if any of that's not your cup of tea, definitely move along. It is a cozy mystery, so there will be murder, of course. Judge a book by its cover. Honestly, the cover's very unassuming.
Yep.
Because it's just this random blonde girl holding yarn, and then there's a cat. It feels like it lets the title do all the talking for it. It's like, this is about vampires and knitting and cozy murder mysteries. If you're a fan of any of these, this is for you. So I didn't really have any clue what this was going to be about. It's a cozy murder mystery with vampires. That was the best I could do. I sent the screenshot to you. What did you think? Other than why?
It's going to be cozy murder mystery with vampires and knitting. I honestly thought it was going to be like The Murder She Knit with the knitting club, but with vampires.
Yeah, I thought she was going to be a vampire. The girl on the front.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. Yeah.
She's not.
No.
Fool. She's a witch. Get it right.
Because that's... all right.
To start the conversation section, I seriously wrote vampires, witches, murders, oh my.
To be honest, that's kind of where I thought this was going to go. When she said that whenever she tried to knit, it ended up as a big ball of mess. And I was like, knitting doesn't do that even if you're really bad. And I know that because I'm really bad at knitting, which sounds like you've got some sort of electric energy that's just fuzzing up all your yarn. And I was like, she's got magic. That's obviously the solution. So I kind of guessed it very early into the book.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Her sucking at knitting. Why'd you believe that she was a witch?
No, it was the way that she sucked at knitting. You can suck at knitting and get holes in your stitches or drop stitches, but it doesn't turn into a ball.
Sorry, I'm laughing so much because one, you immediately jump to, oh, you have magical powers, but two, you were right.
It's a vampire book. I know my magic tropes.
This book is insane. Poor Lucy here is being the normal character in this sitcom with vampires and witches and English ladies that own tea houses. And she's just over here trying to start this cozy murder mystery like a normal person, like, oh no, what am I gonna do with my life? I'm having a quarter life crisis. I just got out of a bad relationship. He was cheating on me. And so like all this is very normal cozy mystery fare.
Which we never come back to if you think about it. As soon as everything starts going down, we don't ever really mention that again.
If I know my cozy mysteries, this one is obviously setting up a love triangle.
Oh yeah. Oh, it for sure is. is.
They're gonna play with the love triangle for a bit, and then once the love triangle gets a little stale, he's gonna pop up.
Oh, yes.
He's gonna be a character in a later book. Maybe not the second or third one, but he's coming. Oh, he's coming.
Yeah, he sounds like a douche, too.
He does.
She just got out of this relationship, and I can't remember her exact wording, but she's like, wow, only someone desperate or blind would date this guy. And I'm like, you just did, though.
Yes. Yeah, she did. Oh, that's what it was. The girlfriend that he was with cheated on her with this other chick, and then they were together, and then the best friend emails her that they broke up. That's setting up for something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down for a love triangle. I'm actually kind of liking how this one is setting up, because normally it's immediately like, oh, romance, but this one feels more like setup, which I can appreciate. It feels more organic that way. I'm kind of curious if the friend ever shows up again.
I'm willing to bet not. I'm willing to bet she drops off the face of the planet.
Yeah, because Lucy was like, hey, she emails me. Wow, she's not talking to me anymore. And so I'm guessing that she just kind of drops off.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy has enough friends right now, okay? We don't need another one. She got to get to know all the vampires and the witches and the old ladies with tea shops. So it's starting off normal cozy mystery fare. She gets there and she's like, oh, I'm going to talk to my grandma. She's going to help me figure everything out. Just lost my job. I lost my boyfriend. I'm super estranged from my parents, kind of.
I mean, she just came from them, but yeah.
My grandma's going to make everything better. And so she gets there and there's a note on the door and it's like, hey, we're closed. And she's like, what the heck?
No, she does that entitled person thing where she doesn't even check to see if they're open or if the lights are on, and she just tries the door and it's locked. And then she's like, what? And it's dark and there's a note on the door that's like closed for the foreseeable future.
And so then she looks over and she thinks she sees her grandma.
No, she sees her grandma before she gets to the shop.
Oh, either way, she sees her grandma and runs after her and keeps calling her, but the grandma's avoiding her. And then she turns down this alley and then they're not there anymore. And so, wow, that's weird. But then Lucy goes into the tea shop next door and they tell her that actually her grandma's dead. Which is true. Weirdly enough, that is true. No one is misinformed here. And so Lucy's trying to figure all this out. And so she finds out that the knitting store is hers now.
When she talks to the solicitor.
Yeah, she willed it to her. So now she has to run this knitting store in the middle of Oxford, which, okay, that's my dream.
Background on that. The reason she's running the store is because her grandma's like, you can have all this stuff as long as you leave the knitting store the way that it is and run it yourself, which she's on the fence about a lot, whether or not she actually wants to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of the weaker points, because you get to several places where it feels like she's made a decision, and then in the next scene, she's like, I don't know. And it feels a little bit like you could tell when the writer sat down to write something, had a writing session, got up, and then came back to it. Because there's some inconsistencies.
There's some continuity errors.
Yeah, that too.
And I mean, in the same sentence, continuity errors, I found a couple fun ones. Let me pull up my notes on this.
Well, you look that up. The thing about Nancy Warren is this one came out in 2018. It is now 2021 at the time of this recording, and she has released 12 books in this series. That is 3 books a year.
Okay, one of my favorite continuity errors that is right after itself, the woman that's working for a rich dude that wants to buy the store comes in and is trying to get this information from Lucy, and Lucy's like, how do you know my grandmother, right? And they say a couple other things, and then she goes, are you a relative? And Lucy's like, should I tell her that I'm the granddaughter?
You already did.
You just did, though. You just did. We're there. And it's really obvious that right in the middle of that conversation, she was writing, and she got up, she didn't bother to read what she wrote, and she just kept going.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with having that ridiculous publishing schedule. Oh my goodness, is you don't have as much time to edit it. You gotta write and get it out there. And I don't think there's anything in it where it takes away from the book in a way. Like, there's a couple funny moments where you're like, and then there's a couple of moments where I get annoyed at Lucy. I'm like, you've decided this already. Oh, woe is me. I have an entire store to myself in the middle of Oxford, which I've said is the prettiest town. And I have 2 boys fighting over me. Whoa.
And they're both hot, and one of them's undead.
Go for living guy.
Go for the living guy. Just in the long run, just go for the living guy.
Yeah, unless you're planning on being a vampire.
I know the vampire is hot, and I know that's great, and, that's wonderful, but he's gonna live forever as that age, and you're eventually gonna die, and don't do that to him. Don't do that to yourself.
Plus, the cop guy is seems kind of cute.
I mean, unless you want to become a vampire, and then, I mean, that's your business, but maybe go with the living guy.
I want to know how that works, being a vampire but a witch.
No clue.
This book's magic system.
It just does.
Okay, you know what annoyed me about Lucy a lot?
You mean other than the fact that she just kind of is?
She's kind of dumb.
She's very dumb.
Really dumb. And there will be times where she buys all this stuff for vampires because she finds out that they have a knitting club in the back. I love that they don't ask, like, hey, can we keep doing this knitting club? They just kind of inform her, yeah, on Wednesdays we knit.
On Wednesdays, we're here.
Just so you're aware. Like,
you have no choice in this. We're just here.
I just love that. I also like that they specifically use her back room instead of knitting in their area.
Ambiance, man. Plus, closer to the yarn.
But Lucy buys all this stuff to ward off vampires that she's heard of. Like, she gets holy water, which was really funny when she went into the church and she just had this jar. There was this water there. She was like, scoop. Okay, I'm just going to take this. Bye.
Is that not how you acquire your holy water?
It was a really funny scene where she just walks into the church and she's like, okay, I'm just going to take this. Bye. She does that. She gets a cross. For a woman who just lost her job, she drops money like it's nothing. She buys a $250 cross.
And you know her parents don't have money because they're both archaeologists. There is no money in science.
For real. Especially with that big a team. But she spends $250 on that. And there's a couple other things she buys that are in the hundreds of dollars range. And she doesn't even flinch. She's like, okay, good. I can spend that. So she buys this ridiculously expensive cross. And then she gets the holy water. She has a steak. She gets garlic. And then they get to the knitting club. And one of the guys is allergic to garlic. He's like, hey, please don't have garlic over here. She's like, what? You're not all scared of garlic? And they're like, no, that was some French vampires wanting people to be seasoned. She's like, oh. Continues to wear the cross and have all of the other stuff. Lucy, has it crossed your mind that if garlic doesn't count, all the other stuff might not count either?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Are you kidding? One of these things surely has to work.
I was seriously waiting for one of them to be like, I didn't realize you were so religious. Or like mention the cross that she keeps wearing. It's a big one. It's huge.
She's wearing it under her sweater. It's not visible.
And it has a thick chain too. It's just Lucy, darling, sweetie pie. So yeah, she finds out her grandmother's a vampire.
Her grandpire?
Her grandpire! That's how that works, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. For sure.
She finds out her grandmother's a vampire. And then, dun dun dun, the mystery, her grandmother was murdered. Not by vampires, but by a human. And then the vampire saved her by turning her into a vampire.
I feel like there should have been consent there. I mean, like, I get it, but at the same time, consent?
True. Hey, I'm turning you into a vampire. I mean, I don't know how you would have gotten, maybe a last will and testament. Hey, would you ever want to become a vampire? If you become friends with the humans, I feel like a vampire should have this conversation. It's like, are there any situations where you would want to be a vampire? Be responsible.
I mean, you can always do the, so I turned you into a vampire, but would you rather have died conversation? But who wants to be killed after having undeaded?
Yeah, I'm here now. Might as well. I do like that she was an insomniac in life, so she's an insomniac as a vampire. That was cute.
Yeah, it's just during the day instead of at night.
But I kept getting so frustrated with the grandma because she kept not telling Lucy things.
She doesn't remember. She's got trauma brain block, which is a thing, but it's a cop-out for the author to be like, it's a mystery.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. But I'm talking about she takes forever to tell her, hey, you have magic powers. And then she's like, I should give you a lesson. And then she waits 2 nights to give her a lesson. And then she doesn't tell her about the book until the very end. These are important things you would have remembered. Why is no one having this conversation?
It's not important.
Lucy, why don't you care more? Stop caring about whether or not you're going to do something other than this knitting store. You have magic powers. Priorities. Please.
Vampires are real. Priorities.
It takes her less time to get used to the fact that vampires exist and that she's a witch than for her to decide, I want to keep this store. And I get it, but the conversation never changes. I think that's the frustrating thing, because it never changes from, oh, do I want to keep the store or do I want to be on my own? Oh, do I want to have to deal with vampires? Do I want to have to deal with magic? Do I want to leave this? No, she doesn't ever get there. She's stuck at the, but I might want to do something else. You've got magic powers and vampires living in your basement. What more could you want? Or at least be like, hey, I don't want this. But she's never like that. She's just stuck in the, I could sell this place though. She keeps saying, but I can't knit. That is her reason for possibly selling the store is I can't knit. There are other crafts you can do with yarn, okay? Crochet is very easy.
It is. I can attest to this.
Oh my goodness.
When she calls the cops and has to tell Detective Boyd, whose name I cannot for the life of me remember. I can't remember anybody's name, and I don't really care.
Yeah, they're all very bland.
They're very bland names. And she's like, I thought there was a break-in. 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 And I was like, how many times do you have to say I thought there was a break-in in this explanation? Because you start the sentence with it, and you ended the sentence with it, and then you said it 2 more times.
The cop actually seems very competent. I'm really surprised he was like, okay, this seems really suspicious.
Where's the man with the gun? Yeah. Because she was being really suspicious. I honestly thought he was going to be like, where is he hiding? Who's he got? What's the threat? Who's got you lying like this?
What's going on? I'm gonna look around, okay?
Can you tell me with sign language where the bad guy is?
Blink one if you're being held hostage.
Right?
Wasn't there a really dumb excuse like, oh, I thought it was a burglar, but it was my cat?
Yes, that is exactly the excuse that she used. She's like, I'm not used to having a cat, and I forgot that the cat was here, and then it knocked the thing over, and I thought it was a burglar.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I could totally see that. But then I go back to the detective, and I'm like, and you're still interested?
Hey, man, in Princess Bride, I am amazed at the fact that Wesley loves the dumb darling that he loves.
Yeah, but that's the comedy of the movie. This book plays it straight.
I know, but I mean, I'm glad he likes her, and she likes him back, and that's sweet, but man, she's dumb. To each their own, though.
I'm sorry. Still, he just met her, and she did kind of make a fool of herself in the grocery, too. I feel like you would get to that part and be like, oh, you are a special kind of stupid.
Maybe he likes special kind of stupid.
I'm gonna keep an eye on you. You seem like a liability.
Yeah, you can have my number for when you fall down the stairs by accident.
Whatever, he's still into it. I'm just telling you, she must be gorgeous.
She's a blonde.
She is.
Nothing against blondes.
For sure. She has blonde curly hair. I appreciate it.
I thought her hair was straight because the picture in the book. When did they ever say her hair was curly?
They mentioned it a bunch of times. And there's one point she's like, straight people just don't. Oh, sorry, not straight people. Straight people. People with straight hair just don't understand. And I'm over here like, okay, I get that. That was realistic.
I apparently missed all of the references to having curly hair. Every single one of them. I missed all of them. All of them.
It's just every time she's like, and I put on a lip gloss and some eyeliner or something, and then I do XYZ with my hair, and then she goes somewhere, which I feel is realistic. That's something I would do. Lipstick, eyeliner, we're done.
Yeah, I missed every single reference to curly hair.
She has curly hair on the cover.
No, she doesn't.
Well, it's kind of wavy-ish. It's not like my curly, but it's kind of wavy.
It's straight, but it's obviously someone took a curling iron to the ends. It's been styled.
Yeah.
It's straight, but styled.
Oh, yeah, and I think that says more about the model that they got. She probably has straight hair. Although, in some of the other photos, maybe it's just, I don't know, they might have brushed it out and then styled it. Because on some of the other ones, it does look like she has curly hair. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, she has to have curly hair. She's a witch. That's how this works, right?
No. She has to have red hair and green eyes. That's how this works.
I have magic powers? Oh, I dye my hair. Dang it.
You are not a natural redhead.
That doesn't mean anything.
Your husband has natural magical powers, though.
No, he has hazel eyes. All right, we'll try this. We're gonna have a child.
Your child's gonna have magical powers.
We're gonna have a child. It needs his color hair, my texture, my green eyes. We're gonna have a magical child. Wait and see.
You're welcome.
All our children be brunettes. So there's a bunch of other shops, and there's a plot line where this dude is trying to buy all 4 shops. And I kind of like how she set him up. He feels very manic. He has just way too much energy. He's a little too intense. Up in his chair, moving around constantly, can't sit down. He feels very manic. I actually really appreciated that. That felt different. It wasn't like, oh, you're automatically suspicious, but it was kind of a suspicious. Like, he could do it. Not saying he did. it, but he could. So I appreciated that. Honestly, I kind of liked all of the suspects.
She never completes the plot line with the guy that wants to buy the store. I bet that comes up in the next book. But it feels very, oh yeah, there's the guy that wants to buy all the stores and everybody else wants to sell to him except for you. And then it kind of goes away.
Yeah, because they find out, hey, you're not going to keep these stores as is, which all of the store owners were dumb for thinking that. There's no way he's going to magically know how you did everything and always do it. Like, no.
But he promised.
Even if he wanted to keep the tea shop and wanted to keep the stores, he's not going to continue how you've always done it. By what? Osmosis? How is he supposed to know? Anyway, so that was dumb on their part. Oh yeah, I forgot he was Detective Inspector Ian Chisholm.
Oh, that's his name, yeah.
Oh, he had a ginger complexion and wavy hair. Oh, he's a ginger! I want him. Sorry, that sounded weird. I want him to be the love interest. I don't want him. I already have a ginger.
You're married to a ginger. I do like when they leave the store and she's walking and she's like, oh, he's gonna catch up to me, and then realizes that no, he's just trying to get to his car and is full-blown gonna walk right past her. I love that bit. She's like, oh, I guess he's not.
Oh, hey. There are some really funny moments. Whether or not she means all of them to be funny is beside the point. Like I said, I laughed way too hard at the holy water point. She just walks into a random church, scoops up some holy water and leaves.
It's not in the church, it's in the graveyard. She's in the graveyard in the baptismal pool.
Oh yeah, they keep filled.
Do you know what's fun about the holy water?
What?
When the guy attacks her, at the end, she flings the holy water in his face, and the author makes a point to note that for some reason, his eyes are in pain and he's still holding his face. And then that doesn't come up again at all. No one mentions anything with that.
Oh yeah, it is just water.
She makes a point of being like, surprisingly, he's still holding his face. And I'm like, did the holy water burn him because he's evil?
He's doing the devil's work.
But we don't talk about that. We also don't talk about the fact that the cops ran in on her while a broom was beating this man.
Yeah!
We don't talk about that. Nowhere does it mention that she dropped the spell before he came in. Also, we don't talk about after to be like, yeah, so he had burns from the holy water. I mean, they never say whether he did or not, but I feel like if his eyes are in that much pain, surely. But we're just not going to talk about that.
There's a lot of things we just don't talk about.
Another thing we just don't talk about is that throughout the course of this book, she's like, oh, wow, all of these things are in the wrong places. And I'm like, but the store's been closed for weeks now. Who moved the stuff? Because the vampires don't seem like the sort to put things not back where they go.
Yeah, they know where all the stuff goes. They can walk in there and grab whatever they want.
So who messed up the store?
Sorry, I'm realizing now, because it was the friend vampire, because she's like, oh, I turned her into a vampire, and then we had to clean up the murder scene because she can't be murdered, because then they would need a body.
That doesn't explain why things were stocked in the wrong places and...
No, it doesn't. She made a bigger deal out of that than it was.
Yeah, and how did that happen if the store's been closed for 2 weeks and the grandmother could use magic to put things back in order? How did we get here?
Also, there's a question of why?
Is this just filler? Are you trying to make word count?
Okay, so let's imagine this murder scene in the middle of the store. He ran for her, and there's no reason for all of the yarn to be out of place. What was the grandma doing? Running like a cartoon, running past and every single shelf, just throwing it back on him? Why was it ransacked so bad that people put it in the wrong spot?
The only thing I can think was that since he killed her near the end of the day, maybe she was still open or had just closed and hadn't had time to magic everything back to where it goes, and so it was still messy from that.
But still, she even makes it sound like, oh, not that many people stop by on a normal day, because she's like, wow, this is so many people.
It's my only thought.
I don't know why I got that messed up.
See, this is my point. Why?
I don't know. That's something that doesn't really play out, because we have other plot lines to get to, okay?
You mean other plot lines that we just kind of drop? Those plot lines?
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Let's see. The assistant.
The one that dies, yes.
I like everything with the assistant. I like that she's like, ugh, I have to call the assistant, and then calls her, and she's like, hey, and then the assistant's really rude to her. And I thought it was because the grandma died. She doesn't feel any reason to be nice to the granddaughter anymore.
See, I thought it was because she killed the grandma. I was like, oh, it was you.
But if she did, why would she come back and work for her?
No. That was just my first general thought when she picked up the phone and she was like, are you going to come into work? And she was like, why? I just felt like you did it. Also, I don't like her. Also, her plotline, there was potential there. She's got troubles with her son and she's a nasty person, but she knows a lot about about knitting and you two could potentially become friends and this, that, and the other. And then they both die. And I'm like,
Yeah.
That
was the only thing I was disappointed with. Because, yeah, you come to find out, oh, she's been fired, but the grandma can't remember why she was fired, even though that happened like a week before the accident. So, anyway.
She should be able to remember, yes.
Yeah. And then Boy Toy Vampire comes up and is like, oh, you fired her because she was stealing. And then the grandma was like, well, if you said it, must be true.
Boy Toy Vampire could say anything.
She can never confirm it herself.
This is something that you should be able to remember because it was weeks ago.
So yeah, so basically every night she was stealing part of the bank deposit to buy drugs for her son. And I really liked it. I like how she set up the son because it's like the son would wait for her every night. And then every night that she came out without the bank deposit, because Lucy kept doing the bank deposit herself, the son and her would get into arguments. And it was like, ooh, that's, this is ominous. And so he's a suspect and she's also a suspect. That was really good. I liked that.
And then they die very quickly after because it's only 2 nights before it's like, boom, dead. And you're like, no.
I will say, one of the reasons I like the Cozy Mysteries, the first books, is you never know who's a character that's going to stay. Because there's certain characters that just won't die. The love interest probably won't die. The cousin probably won't die. Like that kind of thing, right? The little ladies next door, they might die, but the main set isn't going to die. So with the first one, yeah, she was setting up to be the super helpful person. So it was kind of shocking when she did die. It was like, oh, I was not expecting this. I was half expecting the inspector to be like, Lucy, did you do this?
Spaz Cat, is this you?
Because this is your back room.
This is suspicious, my guy.
But no, he does not think that of the fair maiden.
For a police detective, his intuition is not great.
Except apparently it's perfect because he keeps showing up at the right time.
Which is really creepy, my guy.
It is.
Also, she needs a reinforced door. She doesn't need a locksmith. She needs another door.
For real, that many times where it's like, oh, it keeps getting broken open. You need a bolt lock.
Get another door. You need a big, hard oak door or something.
I think at the end she decided she was going to get just a full security system. I was like, that's fair. Honestly.
Well, she was, and then it's either the grandma or the vampire is like, you have magic? Magic the door.
She doesn't know how to use it.
I know.
That means nothing.
But I mean, her grandma knows how to use it and can use it and could magic the door.
Yeah, but see how helpful she's been?
It's not helpful at all, no.
I mean, Lucy thinks magic is coming up with inane rhymes and then things appear and they keep doing that. No one else is rhyming and she just keeps doing it. And I'm like, I hate this.
I gotta rhyme all the time.
That's how this works. And then at the end, the cousin rhymes and I'm like, I kinda hate this. This is giving me flashbacks to the Frog Princess, okay? I don't like it. Anything that reminds me of that book that isn't the Disney movie, no bueno. Let's see. Rafe. His name is Rafe Crozier.
Yeah, boy toy vampire guy.
What a name. Okay, so him, I have a couple of problems with him. There are contradictions about Rafe himself.
A couple?
Because when she first sees him, she describes him as lean.
Like a cut of meat.
USDA certified. But later on, she describes his broad shoulders.
Is he stringy boy or not?
Is he a paragon? That's not lean. How does... Anyway.
He's one of those triangle people.
Oh my gosh. Also not lean. But then she talks about how he has dark eyes.
Yeah, they're so dark and dreamy.
But everyone else describes it as piercing winter blue. I get you're trying to make a tall, dark, and handsome to counter with your ginger cop boy, but you have to pick one. He can either have piercing blue eyes or they can be dark eyes. You have to choose one or the other.
Never. It will be both.
Honestly, with black hair and piercing blue eyes, that would really freak me out if I didn't know this person. Because he kept just showing up like a dummy. He would just show up in the middle of her store when the door was locked and be like, hello, miss. And she's like, what are you doing here? How did you get in? What do you want?
I just at the beginning of the book where he's like, where's Agnes? And then later on, he's like, oh yeah, I knew she was dead from the beginning. And I'm like, then why did you ask where she was? If you knew, you insensitive lampshade.
I think it was a cover. He literally walked in. He was like, holy crap, there's the person. Oh, where's Agnes?
But she's just learned that her grandma has died, and you're gonna bring that up? Really? You know she's dead. again.
Yeah. I'm honestly thinking he's a little dumb too, and that was just the first thing he thought of. He walked in, he was not expecting her to be there because apparently Agnes forgot.
But he's the one that everybody turns to. They're like, what do we do? Wraith, what do we do? Ugh.
Yeah, and don't even get me started. I kind of hate the trope of knows everything, is in charge, whatever. Like, you can do that really well. I don't think they did this really well because literally everyone is asking Rafe. And it's like, I know some of y'all have to be competent. What is this?
No, none of them. Absolutely no one is as competent as Wraith.
And then for some reason, what's her face is like 400 years old and a teenager, but he's basically the dad, and I didn't understand that.
But she still acts like a teenager? Why? What is the purpose of that? Unless her brain hasn't developed all the way because she's stunted from growth because she's a vampire.
That is my vampire logic.
But I mean, you'd still mature a little bit. Even if your brain hasn't developed, you'd still learn things because you're undead and your brain won't get any bigger, but you'd still learn because it wouldn't make sense to not learn because you're still functioning.
Yep, I'm gonna say it. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm gonna say it. Twilight did it better.
Twilight did do it better. Because, I mean, Edward's clearly still a teenager in his head, but he still gains knowledge.
He's still intelligent.
And kind of quote-unquote matures because of the people he's around. But, I mean, he still has that can't quite fully understand emotions because he's got a teenage brain thing going on.
Yeah, and is impulsive and stuff.
Yeah, things that you would expect from someone whose brain ceased to grow, but he's still intelligent.
Yeah, he still learns things. He's smart. Yeah, she's just annoying.
As much as I don't like Twilight, as much as I do actually want us to read the Genderbrent one.
We will. That's coming.
Be excited and not excited at the same time.
It's a great feeling, isn't it? That's how I felt for this book. I was like, this is either going to be good or funny enough to be campy, hopefully. That's all I can hope for in book.
I was relatively indifferent towards this book. It's how I feel about most cozy murder mysteries. I'm like, yes, another cozy murder mystery. I know exactly what I'm in for. And it was exactly what I got.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's so many plot lines. It's ridiculous. We've talked about the buyer. We talked about the assistant. We've sort of talked about the vampires. I like some of the vampires, but some of the vampires I question. I'm like, this is your set. You were coming up with a bunch of vampires, and you basically made a bunch of old women, an old man, a 35-year-old, and a teenager.
And a doctor.
This is our set.
Yeah, they all knit. It's fine.
So we might as well talk about magic.
Magic. There's no rules.
No.
There are no coherent rules with this magic.
No.
It doesn't even have to rhyme. You can make things from nothing, and you can float things, and you can make things do things, and there's no rhyme or reason to it at all.
And they're inconsistent, too. Sometimes you can do things with gestures, and sometimes you have to say a spell, and then sometimes you can just do it with your brain.
But there's a book of spells, because you have to learn. But why do we need a book of spells when you can just do whatever the F you want if you can think of a rhyme to do the thing, / just ask the environment around you to do the thing? Why do we need a book of spells?
I don't know.
Especially since there's no stipulation, at least none at all at the moment, that's like, yeah, so you have to be careful with doing XYZ because you could potentially, I don't know, like split yourself in two or give yourself goat legs or, remove half of your face.
No, this is cozy mystery.
Or teleport yourself accidentally.
That would be a fun plot.
Or accidentally set XYZ on fire. There's no rules. It all just works, but not coherently.
Nope, and this is cozy mystery magic, apparently.
Magic has to have rules.
No, never.
It's an energy.
It's about convenience in the plot.
No, it's an energy.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I kind of hated everything with the cousin.
I do appreciate that when the cousin comes over to give the book back, Lucy's like, I was unconscious on the floor and you stepped over my body to get to the book that you thought was the magic book, but was not the magic book, and now you have the gall to come back to give the not magic book back?
Yeah, I like that, but that scene proved that Violet is just as much of an idiot as her cousin. What do you mean, Violet confused a leather order book for a centuries-old magic book that can't be opened.
I mean, Lucy's unconscious on the floor. The order book is open. It's not closed. It's open. You can't glance in the order book and be like, oh, this is orders.
Or, look at the front.
Like, I get that it's leather, and I get you haven't seen the magic book before, but that's orders. It'd be written kind of like an account log.
Or if we're gonna claim, okay, yeah, it was closed. Sure, it's closed.
Lucy's unconscious. Just open the book.
Yeah, that. But also, you should be able to look at it and be like, oh, that's a leather book. But that doesn't look centuries old or magical. How are you going to tell me?
I mean, it's a magic book. Maybe it doesn't look centuries old. We don't know.
Except she totally says, hey, it's cracking and we're needing this person, Rafe, to come and restore it because it's so freaking old. Why is Violet stupid?
Yeah, but Violet doesn't know that it looks super old. Maybe she's like, it's a magic book, so maybe it doesn't look super old.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it was so dumb. And then up to that point, honestly, this is a touch of, main characters always right a little bit. Because up until that point, I'm like, Lucy, what is with you hating on your cousin? Just let it go. She keeps being like, I need to ask Grandma about my cousin. She never asks.
Never.
Never asks about the cousin.
Never.
Never is like, hey, you had a falling out. Is my cousin evil? Should I be concerned?
I enjoyed that at the end, speaking of evil, they had a falling out, right? The older women had a falling out and they haven't talked to each other in years, and they come in and Lucy opens the book and suddenly everything's all hunky-dory and everything's fine and we can forget years.
Yeah!
If it was bad enough that the aunt was essentially disowned from the family,
they haven't talked.
I don't think that we can fix this over a cup of tea.
Yeah, and the confusing thing was it started out, Mom made sure that I could have it because you were turning to the dark side. And then to find out that they both had the exact opportunity to get to the book. It's just happened that Agnes got it. And then that was the argument. I think the funnier thing is we've solved the murder at this point. We're not talking about that yet because this is technically a cozy murder mystery and that should be number one. But we have solved the murder by this point, and now we're bringing up this plot line. We're still introducing new characters.
Yes.
We finally meet this grandma. Her name is like Lavina or something. Let me look. I took my glasses off.
The video?
Lavina. And she comes in and she's so ominous. And it's supposed to be like, I have blonde hair. I'm on the good side. She has black hair and it has weird colors in it. She's clearly the evil one.
Oh, she dyes her hair and has tattoos. She's clearly the evil one. No one would ever give her a job.
Don't even get me started on the fact that you just met your cousin and your first instinct is to go, I bet you're evil. She doesn't even know she's a witch yet. And she's like,
I bet you're evil.
Hey, I'm your cousin. Do you want to get dinner tonight? And Lucy's like, I don't want to be alone with you. I don't trust you.
It was more that the cousin was like, do you want to invite me upstairs? And Lucy was like, well, now that you've asked that specifically, no, I do not.
I don't know. If I had just met a cousin, I would immediately be like, clearly you're a terrible person. No, how dare you want to spend time with me?
I don't know. In real life, I can see welcoming a cousin and being like, yo, we're cousins. Oh, dope. Let's go out into public and get a beer, especially if they're like, do you want to invite me inside? And I'm like, I mean, no, not really, because I don't know you. So, no.
It just sounded like a silly thing for her to be like super tipped off about.
I wouldn't think evil, but I definitely wouldn't be like, yeah, come inside alone with me.
Well, I think if that happened to me, I'd be like, no, but you want to go out? But Lucy was immediately like, maybe next time. I don't know. Lucy went really far with it really quickly, and I didn't understand it. And I was actually surprised at the end where she was like, you stole my order book. I was like, oh, wow. She actually did something. But yeah, so we've already solved the murder, and they come upstairs, and then to get the book, they have to flip a coin and decide who goes first. And then both girls have to come up with a spell to open the book. And I hate it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And especially when Violet finishes her turn and she's like, well, Lucy's just gonna copy my spell. Why? It obviously didn't work.
I mean, even Lucy says that. It's like, why would I do that? It didn't work. And I was like, oh, dang. Well.
What would be the point?
But I feel like all witches should only have one child if this is how spells are passed down. It makes no sense for all of the spells. This isn't Wizard of Waverly Place.
I mean, we've made it very clear that you don't have to have the magic book to be able to do magic. This has become very obvious.
Why are we pretending like only one child gets the century-old spell book?
When it doesn't even matter because you can just do magic.
Why can't Violet and Lucy share? Violet can come. They can both do magic lessons. Why does only Lucy get the book?
Because that's not how this works.
This is dumb.
Because there are no rules.
This is not Wizards of Waverly Place. Only one of you is going to receive magical powers. No, Lavina still has powers. She still does magic. She's been training Violet. She don't need the book. This is actually technically perfect because Lucy needs to catch up. But yeah, it's dumb that only one of them could have the book. It's dumb that the book exists, period. It's dumb that they can still do magic without it and they're fine. Also, Lucy's dumb because she has a scrying mirror to find this book and then goes downstairs and doesn't think to use the scrying mirror again to show the vampires.
No. So we're like, when you edit everything, I'm going to guess 40 minutes in, somewhere in there. And we haven't actively talked about the murder.
There's too many plot lines. We've talked about all the suspects, except for one.
There's too many plot lines, which just kind of goes to show how absolutely minuscule the murder plot line actually is in this book.
This book is nuts.
Because you don't really care about it until the very end when the murderer, which kind of comes out of nowhere, because you're like, oh, what? Comes in and is like, so Lucy, you're going to sign off this place so that I can have money so that I can harass my wife and get my kids back. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, and so we find out it's the
son of the antique mall owners.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his name. Peter Wright. And so it is kind of out of nowhere because we don't even spend enough time with him because Lucy's like, oh, Peter, he's in a bad marriage. Or maybe he's divorced. I don't know which. And so we spend no time actually investigating suspects because we get to the end and he's like, I need to get my kids back.
It was me. I'm a psycho. I've killed several people, but they got in my way, so they deserved it, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I need to get my kids back. And I sat there as a reader. It was like, oh, so he is divorced. That is how much attention we have on this. We spend way more time on the fact that Lucy keeps getting broken into and knocked out.
I love that your thought process was also, oh, he is divorced, because that was my thought process as well.
She spends no time on any of this.
You're just like, oh yeah, the murder. Right, okay.
And I think it's implied that the mom knows that he's murdering people.
Yeah, because she's stressed out.
She's stressed out and crying. And Lucy's like, oh, my American side would ask her what's wrong, but I guess my British side is winning out and she didn't really ask her. No, you're supposed to be nosy. At least get that right. Care a little bit.
Oh, honey, I know that British people don't ask other people's business and that's polite and all this fun stuff, but you are in a cozy murder mystery and you're half American, and so you need to ask people their business.
You're mainly American, yeah.
Well, I say half because she spends all her summers with her grandma.
Yeah, but still, you need to care.
You have to care.
Your grandmother was murdered. You keep getting broken into. This crazy guy wants your store. You need to care. I need you to care, okay, Lucy? Stop not asking people things.
Your life is on the line. Please do something about it.
No. You know what the worst part was? The explanation for why Lucy at age 27 is finally getting her powers.
Because she's a late bloomer.
She's a late bloomer, but also she's not. It's her mom suppressing her. It's both of those things. It's like, oh, you're a late bloomer. Oh, but also you had magic as a child. You've had magic all along. You know it. Your mother's just been suppressing you, except for all of the times when you weren't with your mother.
Yeah.
Like all of the summers you spent with me and the fact that they've been in Egypt forever and you've been other places.
Yeah.
But it's your mom's fault. And I'm just sitting there like, your mom has magic powers. She's an archaeologist. Those go hand in hand. How awesome would it be?
Yeah, but she doesn't want to use her magic powers.
That's so dumb.
La 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 la. Science. No magic. Science. La 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 la.
That's so dumb.
You could both, though. What if you were to, I don't know, both? Both sounds good.
That would would help you so much.
You can't refute that there is magic.
But think about it, because magic, there are no rules. You can do whatever the crap you want. You could dust something off without even using a brush. That's helpful. And then you could touch a piece and be like, oh, tell me your history. And you could figure out what stuff is. You could use it like a metal detector to find things. There are so many applications for magic and archaeology. You could study the history of magic. I'm so frustrated. I hated all of that. And then, what is wrong with this mother? Lucy finally gets her on the phone and she's like, hey, your mom's dead. And the mom's like, oh, that sucks. What are they gonna do with the knitting store? Oh, I guess I have to keep it. Well, you should sell it, honey.
You really loved your mom, didn't you?
What is wrong with this woman? What is actually wrong with you? I get being such a workaholic that you may not have a great relationship with your kid, but to just straight up not caring that your mom died.
Aw, that sucks, honey. Dude,
I can't.
this was your mom, though. That would wreck me.
I'm sad about it for you. I can't. This was your mom. Even if you didn't like the yarn store was started by your grandma. That has been your life before you started archaeology. Like, you care a little bit.
Please?
Little cares. That's all I'm asking. No cares.
No, the author says we need to move on. We need to continue on. If she's added too many plot points into this first book, we don't have time.
I can't.
Yeah, apparently neither can the mom.
Clearly. Some of the odds and ends we haven't talked about. The ring.
Oh, I forgot about the ring. The danger ring.
The ring is stupid. It just starts glowing randomly, and we never follow up on a bunch of that.
It glows when you're in danger. I thought it was going to be a lie detector.
That would be so awesome.
Honestly, when it first glowed, I was like, oh, is it a lie detector? And then it's just like, no, it detects danger. And I was like, I'm going to call BS. But all right.
That's lame.
That's very dumb.
Because it keeps glowing and it's dumb. And she keeps not paying attention to it. And then when Violet shows up, she's like, oh, my ring isn't glowing. She's still suspicious.
Also, Violet has the same thing but in necklace form, but stops wearing it after the first visit. And I'm like, what? If it detects danger, would you never take that off?
Wear it all the time. I'm just telling you, you're right. If it was a ring of truth, how awesome would that be to be asking someone and then the ring glow and you know they're lying, but you don't know the truth or why they're lying. That's a really cool setup.
That's what I thought it was, especially because the first person it glowed at was the woman that wanted to buy the store. And it glowed right after she said something about buying the store for whatever they were going to use it for. And I was like, oh, is she lying?
Yeah, it glows for her. It glows for the buyer. And then it glows when he comes in. Peter, the guy who did it.
It also glows for the assistant with her son.
Oh yeah, she keeps looking at the sun and then it'll... Which I get that one. I don't get why the buyer kept doing that. It just kept glowing. It was just to be mysterious. I'm like, this is dumb. And Lucy never pays attention to it or seems to care.
I would care if something magical that was in tune to whether or not I was in danger. Also, how would you set that up anyway?
Because it's a ruby.
That's a psychological thought for later that I'll dive into on my own time. But I had something that was like, yo, this is dangerous. I would be like, duly noted. Leaving this situation.
Immediately. As soon as it starts glowing, I'd be like, oh, I left the oven on. Bye. I would be gone.
Yo, I was ironing my clothes this morning and I was going so fast. I'm 100% certain that my iron is still on. I need to dip.
I gotta go right now. But she's like, oh, it's glowing. Time to continue this conversation.
I should maybe take warning from this. Maybe?
No.
Can't be rude, though.
And when Peter comes in and she's like, hey, and then it starts glowing, you know what I would have done immediately?
Bye!
Tap dance on that trap door!
Yo, peace out!
Calling Rafe, texting him, like, hey, danger!
Can you give me just one moment? I've got one customer in the back that I have to finish up with, and then I'll get right with you. Yeah. There's definitely 3 other people in the building right now. Yeah, I'll get right back with you. Oh, it's glowing. Oh, yes, I've just closed up. Everybody's gone. I'm closing up.
I'm by myself.
The building's empty.
Just me.
But it's...
You're dumb. Lucy's so dumb. And I don't hate her as a protagonist, but there's just some times where I'm like, honey.
I need you to rub those 2 brain cells together.
How did you make it this far? Oh my gosh. Yeah, Hester, the teenager, I can't with her. I was so mad every single time. Rafe is like, Hester, you need to stay to make sure she's safe. And Lucy kept being like, Hester, you can leave. And Hester would leave. And then he grounded her and is like, no, you need to stay with her. And then the next day, Lucy is like, Hester, you can leave.
I mean, I do appreciate that the second time Lucy's like, Hester, you can leave. Hester's like, okay, but last time I left, Wraith grounded me, and that wasn't fun.
Yeah, I don't blame Hester. I do think that was funny, though, yes. But I blame Lucy.
Hey, Lucy, maybe Wraith has the right idea and Hester should, I don't know, stay with you to make sure you don't get murdered like your grandmother?
You've already been knocked out once, and your grandmother's been murdered. But no, send Hester away because you're dumb.
Somebody else was murdered. I just...
Oh, I realize you're my only source of protection right now, but you can go. That's fine. Go have fun. Go have a nice night out.
Can we also go back to the ring? That ring is really useless. I feel like it should glow before the person shows up.
You're like, by the way, incoming okay, well, now, if it works the way I think it does, then it works off of dangerous intent, because it only ever glowed around people, it never glowed around objects or potential falling things, so it has to be around murderous intent or intent to harm, and so you probably have to be within range for that to work.
Still, I think the glowing ring happened after Peter was in the store and talking to her, and I'm like, this ring is actually useless.
And I realized that there are no rules with the magic in this book, but if this ring had rules, which, clearly none of the magic in this book does, the rules would be you have to be in range for it to work. And so if I were to play by those rules, that would be why it did not glow before he was in the building.
But yeah, I have a faulty danger ring, and 2 people have been murdered, and I've been knocked out. But Hester, go home.
It's not faulty, it's just the only magical thing playing by rules.
It has no rules either.
I know.
Why did it glow when the real estate agent was talking to her? That makes no sense.
Murderous intent? Flutter of the eyelashes?
Oh my gosh. I wrote this down. I don't remember if it was Violet's or if it was Lucy's, but somebody tried to rhyme evil with devil, and I'm mad.
I, honest to goodness, don't remember and don't care enough to look.
Because even in a British accent, that doesn't rhyme.
Listening to the book, Lucy didn't have a British accent. Everybody else did, but Lucy didn't.
So you either had to say evil or you had to say devil. This isn't Cruella.
Can we call the devil evil from now on?
Devil.
Devil!
Doing the devil's work. I actually do kind of like that.
It sounds fancy.
But you get my point. That doesn't rhyme.
No, it doesn't.
No wonder your spell didn't work. Can we also talk about how she wanted to change the picture? Instead of a leak being in a picture to a pair, instead of changing it into a pair, she summons an entire new picture of a pair?
Yep, because magic in this world has no rules. I demand a pair! Okay, you can have a pair, but the pair's in the couch.
That was actually really funny.
You have to find it.
It was really funny, though.
And it's a whole nother painting. You've just conjured this out of nothing. Or someone has just lost a pair painting, and we're never gonna talk about that.
I can't get over the fact that she's like, Lucy, you have powers. I'll give you your first lesson as soon as possible. And then it's 2 days later, and she's like, look, you can move yarn.
Lucy, I couldn't be bothered to give you a magic lesson. Also, here's one that is relatively irrelevant.
And then after that, she's like, yeah, you're totally ready to open this magical book that I've sealed. Just open your heart.
Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
Okay, Kingdom Hearts. Let me just whip out my Keyblade.
Right, that's how magic works. I enjoy that magic in this world has no rules, but we're still going to apply Wicca to this set of magic, even though Wicca has its own rules. It's only mentioned one time. She only uses the word once, but if that's what we're playing with, they have rules. And their magic does not work like this.
Nope.
So we can't call it that.
I don't even know what this is.
It's misrepresentation.
This is Bippity Boppity Boo. That's what this is.
Okay, Bippity Boppity Boo has rules, though.
Yeah, she had to make things out of other things.
It still plays by the basic magic rules. And it even had extra rules where her magic had a time limit, which would be because of the amount of energy used to transform the things. And so the things would only last for as long as the energy lasts, which would be until midnight. Or there's just a set timer on it. Still, there's rules. It has its own functioning magic rules. There are no rules in this book for the magic.
But yeah, like you said, the book ends and it's like, we haven't spoken since the day with our mother, and I have secretly turned my granddaughter against your granddaughter. And Lucy gets the book, and instead of being upset, Lucy's like, I want the family to heal. And Violet's like, you know what? You've cheated me out of this book, you uncultured, untalented swine. But you're right. We should just be friends. And the grandmothers are like, it's time to bury the hatchet.
Yep, this is great. You can't just bury years of hate. It takes ages to do that. Baby steps. Baby steps does not include tea.
It would actually be so interesting if she had this rival in her cousin. If they left and it was kind of ominous and the grandmother's like, we'll have to deal with them later. But no.
Y'all need family counseling. That's what you need.
Oh my gosh. This is a cozy mystery. The protagonist has to get whatever she desires, and she desires her family to heal. Also, another continuity era going really far back. The knitting. Lucy goes back and forth between, oh, my grandmother repeatedly tried to teach me, to her explaining that she tried once and she failed really badly and never tried again.
Yep.
It keeps going back and forth between those two.
Something I was watching because of the continuity errors was when she's talking to Wraith at the bar, she starts chewing on her thumbnail out of anxiety, and I was like, $50 says she doesn't do that again. But she does. It does happen a couple other times in the book, but I was like, you just threw that in because you thought that would be a nice little bit of flavor spice for the character that you're building.
But also, that's kind of gross.
They came out of nowhere. We're already a good portion of the way into the book, and you were like, yeah, she has this anxiety tick. Her grandma's just died, and she's going to inherit a yarn shop, but not until this exact moment in time has she chewed on her nails. All right.
I don't know. Everyone has bad habits, of course. But if I was out with this really cute dude I had never met before who randomly showed up in my grandmother's store, who was buying me drinks, I wouldn't.
You'd be too self-conscious.
I would not do that in front of him. No. A lot of people find chewing nails really gross. And if you're a habitual nail chewer, it is. I would not do that in front of him.
No.
But Lucy apparently doesn't know that she's super attractive and all of these men are just falling for her. I don't know. I like Rafe and Ian a lot, actually. I'd like this love triangle more if it weren't Lucy.
I hate love triangles.
I know.
I hate them.
This is one of the better ones I've seen. Mainly because they don't immediately fall head over heels in declaring their love in the first book, but...
There's that, but still, I hate love triangles. I'm always so anxious, and she never picks the one that I feel would be better for her.
My problem is a lot of times she never picks.
Yes, that too. And I mean, honestly, I can usually get over, oh, well, she didn't pick the one I would have picked, but I mean, good for her, she's happy. But then, just because how love triangles are usually written, usually they're like, but I don't know, I've picked this one guy, but maybe the other one was meant for me. And I'm like, can we please just pick one and be done with it?
No. My favorite is when they bring in this third character and is like, I picked that one. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then something will happen to that third one and we're right back to the love triangle.
I feel so bad for the guys in love triangle too.
Yeah.
Depending on the love triangle. I feel too bad for the two that are vying for the one, right?
She's never worth it.
Because some of that stuff ends up really underhanded, or they get their hopes up and then their hopes are dashed, or there's two timing and back and forth, and it's misleading.
Yeah. My problem is they spend so much time making both guys so awesome. They never take the time to explain why they care about this girl.
Yeah.
Lucy is basic, who is dumb, but she knows magic, and she has good qualities, but...
It's like an anime with harem anime or reverse harem anime, where it's like, yeah, this basic character that does almost nothing and is relatively dumb, but for some reason, everybody is fallen madly in love with this one character for no apparent reason, except for probably Ouran High School Host Club, because I mean, Haru's pretty dope. I get that.
I appreciate love triangles when she's worth it.
She's very self-aware, and I love that. But usually the trope is, yes, I'm not like other people because I am just a bag of bricks. And that's it.
I'm not like other people. I'm awkward.
I'm dumb. And all of the very attractive other people are like, whoa, look at that bag of bricks. I've never seen such a lovely bag of bricks in my entire life. What would I do without this bag of bricks in my life? I must make it mine. Dude, it's a bag of bricks.
And the guy she's in love with is boring.
Yo, the bag of bricks found a deck of rocks. Nice.
Yes, that's exactly what this feels like.
It's like Bella and Edward. Yo, that's a bag of bricks from across the cafeteria. How could I ever live without that bag of bricks?
I can't read her mind. How in the world ever live without the person I can't read their mind?
Okay, spicy sparkle cat man.
The question is, when you do the artwork for this, are we going to be witches, vampires, or bags of bricks? I'm gonna put bags of bricks in the background.
Yes, I will do 2 heads and then I'll do a bag of bricks in the middle.
With sunglasses.
It's like, yo, bag of bricks. I have to remember this reference because I'm going to use this from all of our of the books from this point forward. Whenever we have a dumb character and be like, it's a bag of bricks. Specifically a dumb character that all of the other characters, for whatever reason, have fallen in love with.
They're always pale. Can we talk about that?
Oh, the pale bag of bricks.
I will say, as mean as we have been to Lucy, because it's kind of fun, I actually don't mind her as much. I don't mind her nearly as much as I'm letting on to. I actually, in a lot of points, I do like her. There are just certain things where I'm like, Lucy.
I don't hate her. She's just a bag of bricks.
And I mean, heck, she's 5'6", had long curly hair. I mean, she has blue eyes. I don't have that. But I feel for you, girl. But yeah, one of the reasons I love doing cozy mysteries is they're so easy to make fun of sometimes. But in actuality, I love this book. This book is great. As someone who loves cozy mysteries, this is high tier cozy mystery stuff. As a first in a paranormal cozy mystery, I stand by it. I don't want to, at any point of this making fun of this book, ever have a reader be like, oh, that doesn't sound good. Please read it. At least experience it for yourself.
If you like cozy mysteries.
Yes, if you like cozy mysteries. But this is one of the first cozy mysteries to give it praise, where it actually made sense why the detective needed to solve the murder and not the police.
Gasp.
That was a good setup. And honestly, with as campy as the ending is, I can vibe with it. As long as they come back as characters, I think I can vibe with them being friends instead of them being rivals. Okay, we don't want to go that dark. Fine. We're gonna have murders. We might as well not have rivals with people that are more magical than we are that could turn you into a toad, probably, but don't.
Too much plot, man. Too much plot.
Too much plot.
She's like, I got this subplot, but I got this subplot, but I got that subplot. Ooh, I should drop one.
We'll just drop it here.
Rival subplot? Nah. Unless we go into the next book and it's, so that went very unwell and they actually hate us still. 50%, maybe like 75%. I wouldn't bet on it, but...
Just because we've only read the first one, I don't know if she skips around time periods or if she's going to continue from there and be like, so about you selling the knitting shop in the next book or something.
I guarantee you she is.
Because that did technically never get resolved. She never even went to other people was like, hey, I found out his plans. He actually just wants to make a restaurant. Don't sell.
She has no proof for the plans.
Yeah, but I feel like she could probably tell them and they'd be like, what? She would have no reason to lie about it, but he would have reason to lie about it. That's all I'm saying. They might have already signed the contract though, so it doesn't matter. I hope there actually is a clause in the contract itself where it's like, if I don't get all 4, this contract is null and void.
Oh, absolutely not. Knowing this guy, I guarantee you it's not. She made a point of being like, this is the sort of man that would kill to get what he wants. And I'm like, oh, well, that's comforting.
Yeah. I honestly think it would have been more satisfying if the buyer did it. Alas. But honestly, I had only planned to read this book kind of as a joke, but we got to the end of it and now I want to read more of them. And so we probably will. I'm adding it to my collection. It's just so random. We haven't even talked about Nyx. She has this cat and throughout the entire book, everyone's like, oh, your cat's special. It's a familiar. It's special. And Lucy keeps being like, you're just a normal cat. Why are you acting weird? That's weird. You're acting weird. And then someone's like, it's a familiar.
It's a familiar.
It's just a cat. Wait, you're acting weird. Why are you acting weird? What are the rules of a familiar? And why did Rafe hate the cat? That never came up again.
I thought it was going to be like the vampires could shapeshift and it was actually the teen pretending to be the cat.
Right?
And then it wasn't, but that's what I thought it was going to be.
Okay, this sounds terrible. I really thought this was a Twilight situation where instead of a werewolf, it's a werecat. And he knew.
Oh no, I just thought it was classic vampire myths where vampires can turn into bats or cats or ravens birds or crows, and that her form was just a cat.
What happened to Agnes's familiar? She never had a familiar. Why does Lucy get a familiar?
That we know of that has been talked about. I guarantee you something will pop up later and be like, oh yeah, my familiar was this, blah, 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 blah. And we'll be like, oh, well, that wasn't mentioned in anything.
Nope.
Ever at all. Thank you.
Of all of Lucy's reminiscings of the knitting store, she never thought of a cat, a bird, a dog, a fish.
Imagine having a fish as a familiar.
It's magic.
It's magic.
But you get my point. As fun as cozy mysteries usually are to poke fun at, because it's all for fun at the end of the day. I actually don't mind the mystery solution. I think the buyer would have been a better option, but I guess it would have been too obvious. I think she does a good job with the vampire setup and the magic setup. If we get to the second book and it has this much build up to the murder, though, I'm going to be a little disappointed. I allowed this much build up because vampires and magic and new things, but I'm expecting more murder.
You'll be disappointed.
We'll see. Like I said, she's written 12 books in this series in 4 years.
That does not give me hope at all.
If it is on the lines of this, where there's just some continuity errors and several editing errors, I can be okay with this level. This many books in this level, okay. They're not masterpieces. They're not pieces of literature. But cozy mystery books that are paranormal, correct. She is correct. This is a paranormal cozy mystery, and I'm for it. I like this genre. Hopefully Lucy gets better. Now that she's decided to keep the thing, hopefully she's better. I got very tired of her complaining about being given a business on a silver platter in a city that she could not afford otherwise, with 2 dashing men vying for her attention. So tired.
What am I gonna do? Do I keep the shop or do I get rid of it?
She didn't even have a plan. That's what annoyed me. She was like, I could do this, or I could do other things. At one point, she's like, oh, I could travel. But then she stopped bringing that up. She's like, I could take the money and leave. I think we've yelled enough. My poor voice is mad at me. I'm not upset. I am not surprised, though, because we posted about it, and so many people were like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I was worried going in. I was like, is it gonna be good? But after reading it, it's like, I can see how she got a cult following with this book. I really like the concept. I honestly am mad I didn't think of this first.
Right?
I think that is my only qualm, is I did not think of this concept first. It just screams me. I enjoyed it. For a paranormal cozy mystery, if you like vampires or knitting or mystery, cozy mystery specifically, because it does have all the trappings, then yeah. If you don't like cozy mystery or vampires or witches or knitting, this is not going to win you over. But if you like that stuff, like, this is up your alley.
This book's okay. I probably will not read it again. It's okay.
That's fair. I might read it again. I just put it on my list of cozy mysteries that I just have way too many of the series. I'd read it again. But yeah, you don't like cozy mystery. Well, you're okay with cozy mysteries, so we'll say that.
I do not like them the way that you do.
No, they're a good time. I usually end up poking fun of it out of it, and then I get a decent mystery out of it, and that's all I ask.
I wouldn't consider this a decent mystery because you don't really have any clues to who the murderer is at all.
No, yeah, this one's definitely much more set up and vampires and magic and stuff, and that's what I'm saying. Next book, I'm expecting more murder.
Murder.
One question for the author.
Why was the store messy?
That's a good one.
Why? I don't understand.
What in the world is her writing schedule? If you have 3 books a year, that's 1 every 4 months. You have to write it, and then you have to edit it, so you have to have time for both. And I'm pretty sure she's an independent writer, and so she can just release them herself and stuff. But she still has to do things. She has to write it, then she has to edit it, and then she has to get someone to do a book cover for it, and then she has to do all the other advertising. That stuff takes time. And she has 3 others she writes for. This woman is a vampire. That's how this happens. She doesn't actually sleep at night. It's like Twilight. They don't sleep. They're just awake all of the time. And so she just writes books. Rating. I'd give this finding out you have magical powers out of 10. It's magic. That's pretty cool.
No. The magic doesn't even have rules in this book. No.
I didn't say finding out you had cool magic powers. It was just finding out you had magic powers to move yarn and crap.
I'd give it finding out your next door neighbor is a vampire that knits 6 out of 10.
Okay, weirdly enough, I would think that's cooler.
No, it's mildly terrifying. Are they going to eat me? I don't really know them. Are they going to steal my yarn in the middle of the night?
Oh, that's a good question. Hopefully not.
Are the sweaters that they knit me because they're way overly friendly, which is suspicious, going to have blood on them?
Yeah, if they didn't have the grandma to be the voucher, I'd be like, yeah, they're cool. That's a lot more suspicious. That was consistent, though. They made her a sweater. She wore it. People wanted the pattern. They would find the pattern. Oh, yeah, I forgot. They set up Hester as the new assistant. That was a decision. Second question. Do you regret Hester yet? 12 books in. Do you regret this? We'll get there. There's so much in this book. Have you read this book? Do you think more authors should branch out to create these niche genres? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more.
Thank you for untangling the Vampire Knitting Club with us.
You can keep up to date with us by checking us out on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. And you can help support our podcast by checking us out on Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you can get access to our bonus episodes, where we look at the movie adaptations for some of your favorite books. This month, we're exploring Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase and comparing it to its movie from 1939, 2007, and 2019.
Join us next time where we will be reading The Black Prism by Brent Weeks.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Lizzie Sawyer.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time.